The key to any successful ABM program is the ability to personalize the experiences for key accounts and shorten the sales cycle with sales and marketing alignment. And Snowflake's marketing team has done just that. They embarked on their ABM journey less than a year ago with one goal. They wanted every visitor experience to matter. Using a combination of Terminus to target specific accounts, Engagio to help measure each account's engagement, and Uberflip to scale tailored content experiences, Snowflake's marketing team has seen the kind of engagement and ROI that makes marketers envious. They increased their speed to publish personalized landing pages by 7 times and generated awareness in their top accounts that previously had no engagement. What's more, they have better control of their content and total buy-in from the sales team. For Snowflake, the ability to create personalized experiences quickly and at scale made all the difference. And that's why they're our pick for ABM Program of the Year.
Congratulations to Snowflake. Let's hear it for those guys on their XP. Also, let's hear it for Carlos Abler. Thank you so much for being here, king of 3M. Now, our last speaker this afternoon, before we get to the big content feud, is Marcus Sheridan. Marcus is, without question, one of the finest people that I know. He was the co-founder of a business called River Pools and Spas. And he now knows as much as anybody in the world on how to create content that actually works. Marcus has been named by Forbes magazine as one of the speakers that you do not want to miss. And fortunately, you will not miss him because you are here at Conex. His new book is called They Ask, You Answer. It is terrific. I cannot recommend it highly enough. He is a live wire, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle your seatbelts. Here comes the sales lion, Mr. Marcus Sheridan. There he is. Give you this. I'm going to take care of some business over here.
Toronto. You with me? You know this is going to be a good time, right? Because we got to do this right now. We got to have a good time. And we're going to be together for about 30 minutes. It's going to be a wonderful marriage, I promise. Douglas, great to see you, my friend. It's been so long. So, like Jay said, I used to be, and I still am actually, a pool guy. So you're thinking to yourself, why did they bring a pool guy up north? Well, I mean, you, sir, what's your name? Richard, do you own a pool? That's why I'm speaking, sir. That's why I'm here. Because it's about time to change the game. All right, so, used to be a pool guy. Started this company in 2001 called River Pools. And things were going okay up until this particular date and number. So let's see if we have any history experts in the room. What's this date and number represent? Anybody know? Come on, come on. Yeah, day of the crash. Day of the crash, and the bottom number is? Yeah, that's the market. Now, was that a good or a bad day for pool guys? Very bad day for pool guys. That's right, because how do most people get the money to buy a swimming pool? Yeah. So one time I was with a group of CEOs and they said bonuses. I said, no, this is America. We borrow the money. So they finance it. Yeah, they finance it. And see, after this day, most people were upside down. So within 48 hours of the crash, we lost 5 deposits. That's about $250,000 in business for us. And it got worse and worse and worse. In the coming months, it just felt like we were in big trouble. And in fact, we were in by January 2009. We're going over the edge. I talked to 3 consultants, and all 3 said the same thing to me. Marcus, you should file bankruptcy. But the problem was, if I filed bankruptcy, as some of you know, I would have lost my home. My 2 business partners would have lost their homes. My 16 employees would have lost their jobs. And so I had to figure out a way how to get back over that edge, really without spending much money at all to do it. And we had to do it relatively quickly. And of course, we did it. And as you know, some of you know, the River Pool story has now been featured in multiple books and publications around the world. And it's even taught in college universities here in Canada, which is really, really cool. Now, I always have a fear, though, when I speak. Before I go any further, I always have this great fear. that you're going to hear this story and say, wow, that was really, really great for you as a pool guy. But you see, my business, and you, sir, what's the name of your company? What is it? Kroll Silverman. That's a very sexy name. It must be a law firm. It is a law firm. It figures. Yeah, it figures, yeah. They really dig deep at law firms. Very, very creative, right? So, yes. So, Kroll Silverman, right? So here's the thing. The reason why people, and let's talk about business for a second, my man. What's your name, by the way? Andre. Yeah, so the reason why people give you their money, because that's what happens in business, isn't it? It's the same reason why they gave me money as a pool guy. It's the reason why they hired me to speak at their events or give a workshop to their organization. It's the same reason they hire our agency at Impact. It's because they feel something about you they didn't feel about all the other boring law firms, right? Which is that magical emotion that binds everybody in this room, and it's called what? What allows someone to give you their money? Trust. And that, my friend, is the business we're in. That's what the content experience is all about. Do not call it to your team content marketing. If you want to get something approved in business, you go to your CEO and you say, do you think trust is going to be relevant to our company in 20 years? And what's your CEO going to say? Absolutely. If you say to your CEO, do you think content marketing is going to be relevant to our business in 20 years? They're going to say, I'm not sure about that. We are talking about trust, and my goal is quickly, over the course of these 20-some minutes, to show you how you can become the most trusted voice in your space. That is my goal. So when we're going over the edge at River Pools, and last point about that, whether you're B2B, whether you're B2C, whether you're B2G, whether your service or product, big or small, I'm asking yourself to not put yourself in that corner that we're different. To see yourself from the trust standpoint. My example sure is a pool example, but this isn't about pools, Andre. This is about your company and about every organization in this room. Sound good to you? You down with me, brother? Good grief, you look like LeBron. That is crazy, my man. It's so awesome, though, man. It's my favorite human on the planet, LeBron, and I feel like I'm talking to the king. Okay, so good. So good. So I started hearing and reading all these fancy phrases in March of 2009. Inbound marketing, content marketing, social media, all this stuff. And what I heard in my simple pool guy mind was this. Marcus, if you just obsess over your customers' questions, whether they're good, bad, or ugly, and you're willing to address those questions, you just might save your business. So we embrace a very simple philosophy, of course, that today we call they ask you answer. Now, the problem is most companies don't embrace this philosophy of they ask you answer. Most would embrace what we call ostrich marketing. Didn't get that in marketing school, did you? So an ostrich, when it has a problem, what does it do? Anybody go? Yeah, it sticks its head in the sand, which is actually a total myth, but it's a good example, so we'll use it right here, right? So it sticks its head in the sand because it thinks what's going to happen with the problem? It'll go away. But does it ever go away? Yes or no? No. So how does this apply to our business? Has there ever been a question that you get all the time from prospects or customers where you said to yourself, you know what, we really can't address that with our content. Why don't we wait till we're face to face with the individual? Because if you can't think of one, I'm getting ready to show you a bunch. Oh, my man, what is your name, genius, in the front? Tom. My man Tom said, how much does it cost? You know, Tom, this is really, really interesting. There's 5 subjects that move the needle in every single industry, in every economy. I've done this over and over again in multiplicity of industries now. Half of our clients are B2B service-based businesses, and it's fascinating. There's essentially 5 subjects that move the economy. We call them the Big Five. The Big Five. These are the things that buyers want to know before they even talk to your sales team, but yet, for some reason, businesses have a little bit of an issue. What are the Big Five? Well, here they are. Buyers are obsessed with how much is it. In other words, we want to understand the numbers game. What are we getting ourselves into? Buyers want to know what are the negatives with it, the issues that can come with it. Buyers, us in this room, because we've all been there, we want to know how does that thing compare to that other thing that we're looking at. We want to know what is everybody saying about it, and we also want to know what the best it is. And here's what's so fascinating. Businesses do not like to talk about these 5 things. It creates a paradox of wants. But if you want to become the most trusted voice in your space, we need to make a shift. And so we're quickly going to talk about how we can address a few of these 5 things. Are you down with that, Tom? Say yes if you're with me, brother. I like you, Tom. Yes, so, you know why so many companies don't I hear it all the time, like, Marcus, we did content marketing and it just didn't move the needle. Here's why it didn't move the needle. Because the majority of content that is produced, and I'm not kidding you, if you align the content with the buyer's funnel, the majority that most organizations and brands produce is found in the land of fluff. And here's how you can define great content. I'm serious about this, especially those that are just getting going. If your sales team member saw that piece of content, would they say, I could integrate that into my sales process right now? Because if they can't say that, guess what? We've probably wasted our time. One of these days, the CFO is going to come a-calling, and if you can't prove the value of the thing, which is why you must have the sales team on your side. So much of the problems that we have, we've got frustrated marketers because the sales team doesn't get it, because they're not involved, and it's not a sales and marketing conversation. The future is revenue teams. It's not sales and marketing, it's revenue teams. That's what's so exciting about this, and you catch that vision, you can run with it. So how do we get to the point where all the content is aligned with what buyers are actually thinking? Okay, well, let's look at it. Starts with money. Now, I need everybody's participation with this. It's going to be really fun if you engage with me. If you're willing to play, say yes. Not bad, Canada. Okay, so, by a show of hands, how many of you have researched how much something costs online, let's say over the last year? Quickly, okay? Anybody here living off the grid, which is totally respectable, by the way? Now, when you're on a website and you can't find anything about cost and price, what is the emotion you experience? Go ahead, what's the emotion? Yeah, frustration. That, my friends, is the F word of the internet. So the question, though, is, what gives you the right in that moment to feel frustrated? What gives you the right? Anybody go, come on. Not getting the information, and you are the what? I am the customer. I'm trying to give you my money, and you're making it really difficult. So in this moment of frustration, do you say to yourself, oh, I'm sure it's on this website somewhere. I'll just keep looking until I find it. Now, in fact, we've done the studies. Guess how long the average person will stay on a website if they can't find any information about cost and price? Guess how long? 10 seconds. Getting shorter by the day. Now, in Canada, might be 12. You're more patient. I get it. I love you people. Now, in this moment of frustration, do you say to yourself as the buyer, as the searcher, well, that's okay, they're not talking about it. They're a value-based business. You know what? I shall call them on the phone instead. Oh, you stopped that one too. Because instead of calling them or digging further on the website, you as the buyer, you as the searcher, you keep doing what? You keep searching, and you search until what happens? You find an answer. And generally speaking, whoever gives you the answer you were looking for, they're going to get what? Your business, your trust. And if not your business, at least they're going to get first contact. And I'm sure we could all agree in this room that if we had a choice, we'd always rather be first contacted. Yes or no? Now, what's interesting is the real reason we get so upset as buyers is because we know as the buyer that they know as the business the answer. And because we know they know the answer, or at least a semblance of the answer, we now feel like they're doing what? Hiding something from us. And the moment you feel like anybody is hiding anything from you online, what happens? Trust is gone. And again, Tom, that's the one tie that binds all of us in this room. Now, again, I need everybody to participate and be honest. And no 90s, full raise. By a show of hands, how many of you right now are talking a lot about cost and price on your website? Mike, man in the back, I think they didn't hear the question, so turn it up a little bit, okay? By a show of hands, how many of you in this room are talking a lot about cost and price on your website right now? Look around. We're running less than 10%, and all of them are probably e-commerce. So the question is, why? Now, this is the part I love. I wish you could have my view. This is the part where some of you who went from laughing, now you've folded your arms and you're saying, don't like pool guy. Don't like that guy. Don't like pool guy. So let's justify, shall we? Because this is fun, and by now you're not threatened. You're like, low IQ, I totally like this guy. So if you had to say why we don't talk about cost and price, and there's 3 major reasons in every industry in the world, what's the first major reason we don't talk about cost and price? Anybody go, come on. First major reason, come on. Well, it's different. What do you sell, by the way? Membership association, that's great. And what's your name? Liz. So, the number one reason why we say we can't do this is we say things like, Marcus, we're not selling widgets. This is a very customized solution. Every job is different, special. Yes. Now, Liz, if I came to you and just answer yes or no if you would. If I came to you and I say, can you help me understand what would drive the cost of your service or product up? Could you explain that, yes or no? If I came to you and I said, can you help me understand what would keep the cost of the service or product in your space down? Could you explain that, yes or no? If I came to you and I said, Liz, you gave me a quote, you gave me a price for your service, for your product. I've also gotten some from your competitors. It's really interesting. Seems like some of you are pretty expensive, some of you are down here, some of you are in the middle. Can you help me understand the delta that exists in your industry, yes or no? And how many times has your sales team had to address that very question? Yet why do we save it for after the main portion of the sales process, which is occurring during the digital experience? It's crazy, isn't it? That's number one. It depends. The second reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price is because we say our competitors might find out what we're charging. Very fascinating, this one. You know what? If I came to your sales team and I said, do you have a very good sense as to what your competitors charge? What would they say? Oh, yes, we're an expert. We've done our legwork. So, big secret. If you know what your competitors are charging, it therefore means, yeah. Some of you right now are like, whoa. That's deep business right there. That's why I came to Conex. But what's crazy is, when was the last time your competitors paid your bills? We don't base decisions on the competition. We base it on the ones that actually are willing to give us their trust. The third reason why we don't do it is that we say, well, Marcus, we're a little bit more expensive, and if we're more expensive, we just might lose the sale. But what we all just agreed together as friends and family is the thing that actually scares us away as buyers, as researchers, is when the company doesn't talk about the thing. Case in point. Now, I'm going to give you an example. You're going to say, it's not the same thing, Marcus. No, it is the same thing. Because it's all psychology. That's what we're doing. That's what we're discussing right now. How can we earn trust? So let's say you want to go to a new restaurant tonight. You with me? Yeah. You're going to take a friend or a loved one. You want it to be a great experience. Now, before you go to that restaurant, you're going to do two things. If you're like most human beings, other than make a reservation, what are the two things you're going to do? Anybody go quick? Okay, you said it really, really fast. You said reviews, and you said look at the menu. Everybody said it. Congratulations, you're human. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you go to the website and look at the menu, and there is no pricing, are you still going to go? Now, before you answer, some of you are thinking, is this going on the corporate card or not? Very fair. But this is what we have found. In that moment, 80% of all people won't go. And it's not because they can't afford it. It's because the moment they left it blank, they planted a seed of doubt. And when seeds of doubt exist, inertia occurs. People stop. Another silly example. You've gone to that same restaurant. And at that restaurant, you saw the lobster, didn't you? Yes, you did. But next to the lobster, you saw something else. What was it? Market price. And in that moment, what was your name again? Richard. You had a choice, Richard, didn't you? What was your choice in that moment? You could either say, how much is it? Or you just kept silent. But you knew this, didn't you, Richard? If you asked how much it was and you didn't buy it, what was going to happen? You look like a cheap. And Richard, you are cheap. You are. Now, some of you still aren't convinced yet. I mean, what do I have to do? And so when we embrace this philosophy of they ask you answer, the first piece of content we put on our website was how much does the fiberglass pool cost? And we explained it thoroughly. We said it's a lot like buying a car. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of accessories. And we fully explained the whole gamut. And something really interesting happened on two fronts. First thing that happened is when people started calling me, instead of saying, so give me a feel, Marcus, what are we looking at? They were saying literally things like, Marcus, I just want to thank you because finally somebody was willing to address this. And from a search engine perspective, within the next 48 hours, if you went online and you searched any of these phrases, this was the first one that you saw. It was organic search results, right? But that's not a victory. So let's get where the rubber meets the road. Let's see the analytics, right? Any of you that are using marketing analytics or marketing automation should be able to track these things. This is how we as marketers, what I'm getting ready to say next, get a raise. Because we got to be able to show the value of this thing that we're calling content, right? And so here's a list of the number one phrases that generate the most traffic to the website over the next few years. Now, if you look at the top, we had 13,000 people go to Google, typed in fiberglass pool prices, and of those 13,000, 30 of them filled out a form and said, I want to get a quote from you. So the number that you see on the right side are people that filled out a form and said, I want to get a quote. All right, those are essentially sales appointments. The red arrows are coming from phrases that when they typed that phrase, they landed on that article, how much does the fiberglass pool cost? So we basically have roughly 200 plus sales appointments that occurred from people that originally landed on that article, how much does the fiberglass pool cost? You staying with me so far? Now, here's the important question of the day. If that article is never written, how many of those sales appointments ever occur? 0 to almost none. And why? Because they didn't know. Because we weren't a part of the conversation, but we were a part of the conversation. Because we did address the thing. And many of the people did come to the site. And many of them did convert. And many of them did say, I want to get a quote. Many of them actually got a quote. Many of them bought. We know the names of the ones that bought. We know the value of the pools. And that's why I can tell you without equivocation that one single article, since the day it was written, has generated over $5 million in sales that we would not have had we not been willing to address a simple question. And did we ever say how much a fiberglass pool cost? Well, that's up for debate, isn't it? So am I asking you to put a price list on your website? Is that what I'm asking? What am I suggesting here? Tell me, what am I suggesting? Talk about it. Explain it. Help me understand. Because here's the problem. So many of you say, I don't want to do this because it's going to commoditize my industry. No. Here's what commoditizes something. When you see two products or services and you think they're the exact same thing out of ignorance, and you choose the cheapest one because you believe they're the same thing. What I'm asking you to do is decommoditize that service, that product that you sell. Help me understand the difference. Help me understand why you're 10% higher. Because if you do it and you own it, you're going to be dramatically more successful. So here's the commitment really quick. Is it possible, based on this, that you talk a lot more about cost and price on your website? Yes or no? Yes or no? One more time, because we are family. Yes or no? And if you do this, you will be, as Godin says, that purple cow in the field. You'll be the one they're now calling and saying, thank you for that. We did this with everything. People used to ask us about the problems with fiberglass pools, and we talked about that. They used to ask us the difference between concrete pools, and we openly talked about that. We addressed everything. They used to ask me who my competitors were, and we talked about that. Literally, I wrote about my competition. This is what I did. And because we did all of these things, everything changed. In fact, specifically, what happened is we went from 2,000 visitors a month to our site to 600,000 visitors a month. We essentially became the Wikipedia of pools. But it all happened because of a simple philosophy. If anybody has a question, we're going to answer it. We're not going to allow somebody else to answer it. Because here's the reality of those hard questions. You know and I know that eventually they're going to get their answer. The question is, my friend, are they going to get it from you? Or are we going to allow them to get it from someone else in our space? That is a choice that we all have. Now, before we close, I have to ask you one more question because this is so fun. And there's a lot of stats and studies that are driving me crazy right now about this subject. So I need to talk about it head on. On average, how many pages of your website do you think a potential customer would be willing to read or consume before they buy? Anybody go? Come on, give me an answer. 1. Okay, way to go big. Way to go big. Way to go big. Okay. All right. Anybody want to say 2? 3. Somebody said 3. We'll pray. 3. We bought into this idea that people are goldfish. We are not goldfish. That study is dumb. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, okay? This example changed my life. It changed my whole philosophy. You see, at the beginning of 2013, I looked at the analytics on our site, and I said, I want to compare two groups of people. This group here had said, I want to get a quote, and they bought. This group here said, I want to get a quote, but they didn't buy. So what is the difference? What is the difference between the ones that did versus did not buy, behaviorally speaking? And what was so fascinating is the number 30 kept jumping out underneath this group that had bought. What do you think that number 30 represented? Anybody go?
Pieces of content they read.
Yeah. Dude, freak Tom, you're smart, Tom. He said pieces of content that they had read. Yes. Good grief. Yes. This is what we found. Now listen, this is really fascinating. If somebody read, by the way, are you having fun? Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun right now. You totally feel that, right? Okay, that's what pool guys do, okay? If somebody read 30 or more pieces of our content, consumed it, before the initial sales appointment, they would buy 80% of the time. But if they didn't hit that number, 25% was the closing rate. So what was happening over the course of those 30 pages? That's right, trust. Trust, they were working themselves down the funnel. You got to look at content literally as almost like you're going on another date with that person. And if you go on enough dates with somebody, what's going to happen, Andre? Even you, sir, are going to get lucky. Yes. Yes. The king. So. Woo. There's few people I can do that with, but I can do it with the king. Okay, so if you knew that all you had to do was get your prospects to consume 30 pieces of your content, what would you do differently? Anybody go, come on, what would you do? Somebody said, I'd have more content. Well, that's true, because if your website's 15 pages, you can't say, hey, Marcus, could you read my website twice? You know, you just can't do that, right? You can't do that. So, but here's the part that we oftentimes screw up. We create this in marketing. We create it, but the sales team doesn't know. And we don't teach the sales team how to integrate this into their process. See, this is what I do. I bring sales and marketing teams together. I've taught hundreds of these workshops around the world, and our biggest problem is not bad content, it's poor buy-in from top to bottom. You know that, and I know that. And so when we understood the power of 30, we started to integrate it into our entire sales process. I realized I'd been doing it wrong for years. I wasn't intentional about it. And now we made sure that the people consumed it before we met with them in their home. And what was the result? I got to show you this story. It's such a crazy story. It's real. I can't make this stuff up. So let's look at those analytics again because they're fun. This is a classic example of the stuff that I started to see because of this great consumer-driven, buyer-driven content, right? So here's one of these sheets that you see when somebody fills out a form. And this is a real sheet that somebody filled out on my site. So it's a real person. So don't tweet him right now because that'd be weird. So his name is William Grizzard. We're going to call him Bill, okay? We're going to call him Bill Grizzard. Bill Grizzard. And it says that Bill Grizzard was doing an organic search. It says he was using Yahoo, which in and of itself is really, really weird, right? And it says he was searching cost of fiberglass pool. But here's what's interesting. What happened next? He read how many pages of the site? 375 pages. What is wrong with Bill Grizzard? Somebody said, he's got way too much time on his hands. He must be a competitor. Maybe he's a stalker. Maybe he's got obsessive swimming pool disorder. But either way you shake it, we can agree this is weird, right? We agree. Weird? Yes? Yes, weird behavior. Same night, can't make it up, folks. Same night, another lead sheet. Turns out that Bill has a wife named Joni. And Joni did an organic search also using Yahoo. First identified Yahoo family in North America. Welcome. Welcome to the fold. And she proceeded to read 149 pages of the site. So between these two people, how many pages of the site have they now read? 520 some pages. What do you think that sales appointment was like? Walked into the house. I kid you not. Bill Grizzard is standing there with a spreadsheet in his hands. A content matrix, if you will. It has the pool he's getting. It has every option and accessory he's getting with said pool. And all he needed from me was one little thing, which was the price. That's exactly right. And I walked out of that house 45 minutes later, not the normal 2.5 hours later, with a $5,000 deposit, a signed contract, and as I drove away, I started to laugh because I realized something. How much selling had I done that day? 0. How far was he in that sales decision? Yeah, 99.9999 time, and my only job that day was do not screw this up, pool guy. I realized that day, and I've realized it time and time again, that content, assuming it's honest, assuming it's transparent, assuming it addresses those hard questions that nobody else in your industry wants to address because they're trying to save it. It's the greatest sales and trust building tool in the world. Because it allows, as we talked about, the experience to be on the terms of the buyer. And that's what we have to accept. Turns out that Bill Grizzard's not a weirdo. Seriously, he is one of the most successful surgeons in Virginia. That's what he is. He's a brain surgeon, but he's also what you and I call a buyer. That wants to feel safe. That wants to make good decisions. You know, last year we sold 135 fiberglass pools locally. More than any swimming pool company in the United States. And we know the average number of pages these 135 people read before they bought. What do you think the number was? The number is on the screen. If you had come to me 6, 7, 8 years ago and said, Marcus, do you realize your average buyer would be willing to read over 100 pages or pieces of your content? What do you think I would have told you? You're crazy. You don't understand my business. You don't understand my buyer. You don't understand my sales process. I'm telling you, I've done this in too many industries now because you keep seeing it over and over again. There is a tipping point. There is this magical number that exists in your space too, but you got to think like them. That's the essence of they ask. You answer. Last story. One more? Yeah, you know it's good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So I was giving a talk one time in Texas. God bless Texas. And I was giving a talk, and when I was done, this reporter came up to me, and he said, man, this thing you did with your pool company, how you did it, so fascinating. It's just so, man, I think I want to do a story on this. And I said, yeah, sure, fine. I didn't think anything of it until we talked on the phone for 90 minutes a few days later. And then a few days after that, they sent a photographer down to my swimming pool company. And then a few days after that, on the cover of the small business section of the New York Times, appeared this article right here. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this article. 2 observations. The first one is this. That shirt makes me look fat. That's called too many raisins, ladies and gentlemen. I love you, Tamsin. But here's a serious one, y'all, for real. Look at the title there. Look at the title. Revolutionary marketing strategy. Answer. Customers. Questions. New York Times, you have outdone yourself. This is what journalism is all about. Is there anything revolutionary about answering your customers' questions? Well, in principle, no, but in practice? This became the #1 shared and emailed story for the business section of the Times for the next 3 days. They reran it again that Saturday. And then over the coming months, I got over 1,000 emails from people just like you. I had no idea the Times had this much influence. And almost all these emails repeated one of 2 things. The first thing they said is, man, my goodness, the thing you did with your pool company was so simple. Yes. Yes. Second thing they said, Marcus, I feel like you've given me permission to do that which I have always felt we should be doing. I'm just asking you to do unto them as you yourself would want to be treated in that moment of making that decision. Our challenge is simple. Obsess over the way buyers think. Be willing to address their questions. See yourself as teachers. Get the buy-in from your team. And if you do this, everything will change. That is my promise. Thank you very much.